Welcome, friends. My name is Andy Green with Green Group Real Estate at Keller Williams Realty Professionals. I'm very, very excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, not as always, because last week we were not blessed with the presence of the one and only Miss Annie Ransom. So welcome back, Annie.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's great to be back.
Yep, you're welcome. So you went on a little vacation, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. It was nice to just decompress for a few days.
Real quick, what was the best part about your vacation?
Oh gosh. I was with my dog and my husband, and we had some beautiful weather out at the coast. Hardly anybody on the beach. It was great. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
I love it. R&R, we all need it, especially right now.
Yeah, you'd think it would be the opposite right now, but
we need those breaks
more than ever.
Well, we have got a very, very special guest today. We've got Justin Stoddart with Old Republic Title. He's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about the habits of successful people, the mindset that it takes to be successful. And right now, there are just so many influences that are coming at us on a regular basis, and not all of them are positive. They affect our mindset. They affect how we show up in our jobs, our life, our family, and our businesses. And we've got to rein that in sometimes, me included, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Well, a lot going on. So we're going to do that, and stay tuned till the end, because we are going to be doing just a really quick real estate update and mortgage market update to let you guys know what's going on, because as always, our goal is to bring you news that you can use that will help you take positive steps forward in your life, in your business, and just moving forward through this whole COVID mess that we are going through, because there are opportunities here. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. So Justin Stoddart, I'm going to bring him in to the room here. I'm going to add him to the room. Welcome, Justin Stoddart.
What's up, guys? So excited to be with you.
Like
I've been watching your show for a while.
One of Annie's woohoos. I just did it.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Total pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're really excited to have you. I've known Justin for years. I don't know how many. I'd say probably 5-6 years, somewhere right around there. Justin, you are just somebody that I've always enjoyed being around. I think that the mindset that you bring to the table, and you're really showing this with your podcast, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. Your podcast, you've recently written a book. I'm interested to hear when that's going to be dropping, or if it already has. But you're just an all-around great guy. So I'm glad to be just chatting with you here for a little bit. And I know for a fact that our listeners are going to definitely be getting some great value out of this. So thank you.
Thanks,
and if anybody has comments, make sure to drop us a line. We'd be happy to answer them along the way.
If we do not get to those questions live, then we will get to them after the fact and make sure that we answer all those questions. So a second ago, Justin, I mentioned a podcast and a book. So your podcast is Think Big, or is it Think Bigger?
Think Bigger Real Estate. Yep.
Think Bigger Real Estate. Yeah. So Think Bigger Real Estate, you've got a podcast. I've watched it many times. You always have some great guests on that have a success mindset. So more than anything, that's why I wanted to bring you on today, besides just getting to see you and chat a little bit, but like really dive into the mindset of successful people and what you've found that are the common denominators in those. You also wrote a book recently, The Upstream Model. You've got a mastermind that you do. So tell us a little bit about those, and how did you start the Thinking Bigger podcast?
Yeah, great questions, Andy. Thank you again both for the opportunity to be here. So the book, kind of an update on that. Went through it, did a soft launch, got some eyes on it, got some really good feedback. So I'm now coming back through it chapter by chapter and pulling stuff out. It's kind of like giving away kids. It's like, but that's a good idea. But someone's like, it's too verbose. You got to get rid of it. And I tend to be too verbose. So there's a lot of that going on. So it hasn't officially released yet, but it's to a point where it's slimming down and simplifying it like realizing that this isn't a one shot. I've got to get all my good ideas in one book. That's kind of, for anyone that's written a book, it can be really challenging to not just organize your ideas, but also put them in an entertaining format and have them all coincide together. It's like a big puzzle piece. So anyway, that's the status of the book. It's coming.
Awesome.
I would expect within the next 30 to 60 days, you'll probably see a kind of a release of that. So
Cool.
yeah, the podcast has been a blast. I'll tell you, it started probably 3 or 4 years ago, just as an opportunity to be in contact with people like you, Annie, and really both of you to have kind of excuse to reach out and talk to people here in the local market, interview them about what was going on. And now it's really become a passion project of mine, and that I really get to be around some people that I never would have access to otherwise. And to be able to pick their brain and have a little bit of them rub off on me. And it's really changing me. And to your point of like, what have I learned in that process? I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Hardy. He's the most read author on medium.com. For those who don't know what medium.com is, it's like YouTube, but for blogs. Mm-hmm. So like kind of big authors go and they put their stuff there, and he's the most read author there. In fact, he just released a book called Personality Isn't Permanent, and it pokes a bunch of holes in personality profiles. It says that is not your permanent life story. Like, you can change it. Anyway, fascinating guy. And he said something that's really stuck with me. He said, the people that he's been around that have been the most successful, and he just kind of took kind of some ambiguous thoughts that I had and put them into brilliant words. So I'm going to use his words because he's a really good writer. He said they spend time working on their future self. And I think we are all working on our future self. We just don't realize it. And right now, because there's so much drama happening in our world, so much media frenzy because of, I would say, important events, important things going on, yet they're not so important that they need to dominate every waking hour that we have. In fact, I think Tom Ferry, I was listening to him this morning, and he said, what stuff can I control? What stuff can I not control? And we tend to spend a lot of time on stuff, worrying about stuff that we can't control. And we forget the fact that the job of the news is to inform us. The business of the news is to keep our attention nonstop. And so I think we need to be informed, and we need to be active in those causes that we feel are important, and kind of moving, being influential as much as we can to those things that we feel are important. But it dominating our every thought, I think, is tying into the business of the media. And I also don't know that their objective is necessarily to unite. I feel like it's to divide a little bit, especially during an election year. And so I would just kind of the going back to the fact that we're all like creating and designing our future self. And if we can get intentional about that, when we're not intentional about it, what ends up happening is we end up letting the media kind of fill our minds and our hearts with kind of fear and animosity and anger towards other people. And I think as we by default fall into that trap, we end up not really being the person that we could be. We don't really recognize and pursue the potential within us. We just kind of fall into the trap of the media. And so again, using Benjamin Hardy's words, just spending time on the future self very intentionally, making time to not just have goals, but to write them out as affirmations. I wrote some really big affirmations this year, and it's been fascinating to see the people that have come into my life and the ideas that have come into my life and the coaching program, like just the stuff that's aligned, that's always been there, mind you. It's always been there. But because I'm saying I'm creating this in 2020, I'm creating this in 2020. Now, keep in mind, when I created those affirmations and goals, I had no idea that COVID was going to be a thing. Right. I had no idea that the other stuff that's happening in our major cities and around the country was going to be a thing. I didn't realize that those, were going to have an impact upon our world. But nevertheless, even with those, because I've listed out exactly what I want to accomplish this year, and I rewrite them every morning diligently, regardless of what's happening with the kind of the waves of the ocean, I feel like my ship is still moving towards those goals, and I'm going to hit them. Like, it's amazing to just see some of the stuff that starts to magically come in front of you and align itself to help you get to where you want to go. And so I think, not to belabor this point, but spending time on the fact that you are programming and creating the life that you want to create, and being very intentional about that. It's some things that I've learned that have been really impactful for me, and I'm seeing them start to play out now.
So I assume that's what you mean when you are thinking bigger.
Yeah. I mean, that phrase was actually a gentleman that I work for, Steve Yeager. He runs our operation. We started this podcast off together, did a couple episodes, and it was just too tricky trying to coordinate everyone's schedules. And so I took it on, and but he came up with the name. He's like, Think Bigger Mastermind. I was like, oh my goodness, I love that. Ended up changing it to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, so it was really industry specific. But it was interesting as I've now sought out really big thinkers, how spending time with those people really rubs off on you. You know, you guys have found that, I'm sure, is that like the bigger the thinker you can be around, your possibilities start to expand. And so it's that's exactly the theme of it. I'm convinced that the bigger you think, or that you can have everything you want in life, right? And we've heard Zig Ziglar say you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Totally agree with that. And I think within that is you can have everything you want in life if you just start thinking big enough. I'm a believer of that. If you think big enough, you can actually create the story and the success for others,
right?
That allow you to get what you want.
Absolutely.
One of the very first business books that I ever read, well, the very first one was Think and Grow Rich. That was number one. Number two was it The Magic of Thinking Big. The Magic of Thinking Big, Power of Positive Thinking, and Think and Grow Rich. Those were the first three business books that I read, and they made a distinct impact on my life, on my business, on like laying a foundation for thinking bigger, thinking different. Yeah. Because I think that you have to think a little bit different to go beyond average, right? If average, thinks one way, and that's a big portion of the population, and the most successful people in the world, they just think different. I think that some people might say they're a little bit weird. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. I think he's looking around for affirmations in his office. Anybody can affirm that? Yeah, no, I mean, if you look at 100%, it's almost irrespective of what you would call mediocre, right? People would have different indicators, but if you just look around, maybe the median income, like the median house price, the median, and not to say that those are bad, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's not that people are bad people, but if you want something different, if you actually want to have a different life, then that means it's going to be different than that, right? I mean, that's by definition, it's bigger, it's different. And so then you have to ask yourself of like, okay, what is it that people do to get that median life, right? That's kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, I think they probably get up, they sleep as long as they have to, or as long as they can.
Right.
They go to work, they charge themselves up on coffee because they don't really want to be there. They're not really awake to be there. Then it's all day long. It's, man, I can't wait till Wednesday. Can't wait till Friday. Like, get me out of here. Right. And then as soon as they hit the weekend, it's, or even the evening, it's Netflix all the way, like Netflix and wine all the way until bedtime. And then it start over. And it's like that. And the media obviously is kind of, interweaving in there. And I think, again, this is of zero judgment, but I just have realized like, I want to have more than median, right? I want to impact more than median. And so my morning, like I think Grant Cardone said it best. He said, you've got 24 hours in a day. Let's say you have 8 hours of sleep and you have 8 hours you're committed to a job, right? Or like some sort of thing to provide income. The other 8 hours is what will define and determine what the rest of your life looks like. Like, you got 8 hours there, and that's assuming you sleep 8 hours. To me, that's a lot, right? But 8 hours, maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but like, especially now that we're not spending an hour and a half in a car commuting, right? We actually have more time than we have ever had before. I think we have to get really clear on what are we doing with those 8 hours? Like, that's 8 hours a day. We can make a lot of progress on something that impacts the world for good, whether it be a charitable organization or whether it be business or whatever, right? But like, whatever makes it to where you're not the median, right? Unless you want that, and that's okay, right? Again, no judgment. But if you want something different, take that 8 hours and start reinvesting it in something that actually moves you towards the life that you actually want,
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Well, somebody said this out there at some point in history, but fortunes are not made between 9 to 5. They're made in the hours that you're not doing your normal job. Any business that you start is typically started kind of on the side. So I love it. And I love the focus that you have on the plan, the affirmations, because I know that you've heard this before, that what you focus on expands. And when you focus on positive, healthy, activities that are going to generate results, and you focus on those every single day. You write down your goals, and you find people to help hold you accountable to those goals. The probabilities of your success dramatically increase. And I'm all about probabilities. So I love it.
Yeah. Well said. I think you can start, because you might say like, well, I'm around my family. I don't want to ditch my family. I'm around my coworkers. Like, I can't really not be around them. You can find ways. And for me, the podcast has been an outlet for me to be able to say, if I really believe that I'm the sum average of the 5 people who I surround myself with, like, how do I impact that? Well, I'm going to start interviewing the biggest thinkers I can get in front of.
Right.
Because that's gonna change me, and it is changing me. Just like like being with you guys today has changed me. We're big thinkers.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Just kidding. Well, you've mentioned a lot of different things, like your affirmations, what you do with these 8 hours. What are a few simple tips that you would give to people listening on how they can set themselves up for something bigger?
Yeah, I would say you've got to create the space to create something new, which means you have to say no to something. I would say right now an easy one would be eliminate all of the, in fact, I learned this from Tom Ferry this morning, eliminate all the news apps from your phone, whether it be CNN, whether it be Fox, whether it be MSNBC, whatever it is. The reality is we probably all know who we're going to be voting for in November. Like, we probably already decided. There's a few out there that are still kind of deciding, but most people are, like, in this world we live in today, it's like most people probably know. And what good does it do besides make you angry at the other side or cranky at the other side, right? To have that there. And so I thought that was a pretty good piece of advice. And I think it goes along with the theme of you've got to create this white space to where you can then backfill that white space with new activities. But most people don't have any space because they've filled it up with whether it's necessities or just kind of nonsensical stuff that finds its way in there. So create the space and then start to fill it with very intentional, spending time building the future self. What does the future self look like? What is my life actually going to look like in 5 years? And I know we've all been through these, trainings where it's like, what does your 1 year, 5 year, 10-year plan look like? But is that an annual event? If it is, it's not going to have that much impact, right? It'll have some impact. But what if it's an annual, what if it's a daily practice that's a reminder of that annual event? That starts to change you, when you spend time working on that. But most people don't have the time to, because again, we fill it with stuff that's not actually getting us to where we want to go. So
I think everybody does have the time. They just choose to use their time a little bit differently. That's all it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. We all have, that's the one great equalizer, right? Is we all have 24 hours. No one can say, I got a few extra. I got a few less. We might have different commitments. We might have different obligations, but everybody has the ability, I believe, to create some space, some more than others at this point in their life. But over time, you can create more and more of that space as you get better at choosing wisely with the space you have, right? You can grow that space you have, or you can shrink it depending upon how you use the space you have.
Tony Robbins, in a few different of his books, points out, just 10 minutes in your life, right? If you can't find space for 10 minutes, then you don't really have a life. And so I think even just starting really small with something to help to create that positive momentum, or doing something positive for yourself, even whether it's those affirmations or, whatever. A lot of us can cram a lot of mental attention in 10 minutes. So if people are feeling like, man, I really need to find 8 hours or rearrange my 8 hours, I think even just starting somewhere small to begin with is impactful for sure.
And I would say down that same thread, and a great point is that I would make a habit to read 10 pages a day. Like the very first thing that you put into that new white space that you created is make time to read 10 pages of a book every day. And I used to think that, I've got Audible, I listen to stuff. I'm telling you, it's a different experience. I've started now that I'm not commuting. It's a different experience to read and highlight and write. I learn best, and I think probably a lot of people feel similarly. I learn best by doing rather than just by listening.
Yeah.
Well, I can have a book, and as I'm writing the book, I'm actually writing notes as to how that applies to me and my business and my goals. I'm creating now, and when I create, it changes me because we have to be something to create, and so that's become a much deeper learning experience for me. And so again, if that's the one place to start, I would encourage you to make it a goal to read 10 pages a day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Agreed. Good tip. So I'm wondering if there's been a common theme from the people that you've interviewed on your podcast that makes, what's the common denominator that makes people think a little bit differently?
Yeah, great question. It's funny. One of the things that I do, Andy, at the end of my show, I always ask the same question, and I call it the signature question of the show. And it's what do you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? And I've been fascinated by this question because you'd think that everyone would say the same thing, right? Or close to. And it's been amazing how just almost every episode I get a different answer to that question. And so I started to compile these and put them in like a document.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually have that. It's in fact, you can get it my website, justinstoddart.com/how to think bigger. And so I've compiled over 40 of those answers. And now that I have it completed, I'm like, shoot, that was a good one. I want to put that in the document. So I'll probably constantly be updating this thing, put it on a blog or something to where people can always go see the updates. But the thing that I would say has been a common theme, I would say is belief. I kind of like desire and belief, I feel like are at the core of most everything. That again, kind of going back to this kind of median conversation is if that's what you want, then that's kind of what you're going to get, right? Like ultimately unless you are putting some horsepower behind doing something different, it doesn't matter anything else. You'll never actually put in enough effort to make anything else really change. And so I think having a desire, like actually a hunger, and I think there's people listening to this right now that are like, yeah, I'm hungry, right? Andy, you've found these people, you've had them on your team. You recognize what hunger looks like, right? These are people who are like, that person's hungry. They just want to create a better life for themselves. And it's fun to be around those kinds of people, right? Where it's just like, oh my goodness, I can just feel the energy coming from them. And it's just this discontentment, right? It's not like a negative thing. It's a positive thing. They're like, I want to do more. I want to create more. I think that, and then just the belief that I can, like, if not me, if somebody else, why not me? I think those are two probably pretty common themes. Is it whether they say it or whether it just kind of exudes from them that they want it and they actually believe that they can get it. They actually believe that they can change, they can write their own script, that they can change their own stars, that they weren't destined to be something mediocre or less than other people. They actually believe that they can do it.
Yeah. Well, one of the core values for our company is hungry. So, so cool. Humble, hungry, and smart. Have you, what book was that I read that in?
Yeah, I love that, man. That's powerful.
I can't remember. Okay. I'll have to go back and I'll have to think about that. But, our first three core values are you have to be humble, hungry, and smart. And the hungry part is you just have to be willing to do whatever it takes to be successful, or whatever it takes to help our client accomplish their goal. You just sometimes have to be willing to do whatever it takes. And that's what I heard you say when you were talking about being hungry. The challenge is, and you're right, I talk to a lot of people. We get between, I think, 75 to 100 applications a month for our real estate team.
Wow.
And so I have a lot of conversations, and I go through our core values, and I talk about being hungry. And the hard part is that people say that they're hungry and they think that they are, and they want to be successful, but there's something, and it's different for everybody. There's something that's holding them back. So you talk about desire and belief. How do you like encourage that in yourself, or how do you get started to increase your desire and belief so you can take that next step forward if you're hitting a ceiling?
Yeah, great question. I think, I don't know that I know the answer, but let's explore it together. I had somebody tell me once that if you were really to take stock of the things that you say no to, that you'd rather not say no to, you start to realize, like, I don't want to have to say no anymore. I don't want to have to run everything in life, whether it be through a money filter or a freedom filter. Like, I don't have time to do that, or I don't have the money to do that. We really get honest with ourselves. It's like, no, I'd actually like to live there. I'd actually like to take my family here. I'd actually like to have that boat. And this isn't all about materialism. I know this probably seems pretty surface level, pretty, shallow, but it's easy to quantify those things, right? But it could be a charity. I mean, I'm passionate about an organization called Operation Underground Railroad. In fact, I think your wife had kind of spoken up and said she is as well. Its mission is to end human trafficking, and I would love to be writing big checks to them every year, and I can't. Like, I'm not in a position right now where I can, but I'm working on changing that. And so I think when we really start to get honest with ourselves and we realize, like, you know what, I'm saying no to a lot more things than I'd like to be saying no to. I think we start to realize that we're leaving some things on the table, some life experiences, some impact on the table. And I think that's an important way to start to cultivate desire. To realize, like, you know what, I would actually like to have it better. And that should never come out of a sense of ingratitude, right? We should be very grateful for what we have, yet realize, like, hey, if they can do it, so can I, right? I actually want to be able to write those checks to those organizations. Right. So that's maybe one way to start to kind of, impact that.
I think a big part of it too is, I think real estate from a bird's eye view, or the mortgage industry, or even the title industry, there's this perception of glamour, right? That we're in these glamorous industries. The second that you have a license of some sort, it's like, wow, now I'm going to make it big. And there's a huge story behind that of, if everybody could do it, if everybody truly had the desire and the tools, then there would be a lot of successful people. But the fact of the matter is that there is a lot of grit and hard work that goes into being successful. And so much of it is the story that people tell themselves and why they can't overcome a lot of those hurdles, And so I think, a big part of thinking bigger is taking a step back and saying, well, what am I playing to myself? Why am I not picking up the phone and calling these people? Why do I, why is it difficult for me to ask for business? Why is it difficult to do all these different things that top sales professionals know how to do? And it's because there's some kind of voice going on in the back of your head that's keeping you from being able to move forward. And I think personally, if I were to answer that question today, it would be that. It would be, what story am I telling myself? Because everything that we do, you guys know this, everything that we do is based on our perception of what's happening, or our perception of what's happened in the past that lead us to make these decisions. And so I imagine that you probably have covered some of that in your podcast too, but there's, on the topic of all these great books that we're talking about, Ninja Selling is a really great one, but so much of it has to do with mindset. And I think that that's so big, as a lot of people, whether it's in real estate or mortgage, a lot of us don't have the necessary tools yet in order to create that good, positive mindset, healthy mindset in order to succeed.
Well, I don't know that I could have said that any better. That was so well said. And you're right, is that we all live in a story, right? And we all tell ourselves a story as to why we are who we are, why we're living where we're living, why we're doing what we're doing for a living. And the reality that we've talked about here is that we can impact that story, but a lot of times the story that we tell ourselves is that we can't, is that this is who we are. And I agree. I think there's a big wall that people hit, and that we all know that to be successful in sales, you have to be in contact with people. You just have to build relationships with people. You have to be there when they need you. You have to own a space of real estate in their brain when it comes time for them to need you. And most people don't have the confidence to stay in contact enough to where they own any real estate in our brains, right? And there's this fear of being salesy. There's this fear of being perceived a certain way, this fear of rejection that keeps all of us to some degree, right, from being in contact with people that could really make an impact in our lives. It could be customers or mentors or whatever.
Yeah, that whole conversation was honestly, it was gold. The self-talk that you have with yourself has such an impact. And I know from personal experience, it can change your world. It can change your world. As you were talking though, the one thing that I thought of that really holds people back, that I see holding people back, is the being comfortable and running towards comfort and running away from pain. Yeah. The hard things in life that will set you apart from the median and the average those things are hard and they're uncomfortable. And so often people say that they want success and their actions do not show that they want it bad enough, because they are always moving towards comfort and away from that pain. And so that's a personal thing. You have to figure out how to get over that yourself to ultimately have the success that you see for you, right?
Yeah.
I love it. That was good. That was really good. One last thing, because Justin, I know you have to go. One last question. What would be like your top advice for a brand new agent getting into this business that will help them to, number one, think bigger, and number two, take positive action to accomplish their goals, whatever their goals might be?
Yeah, great question, Andy. I would say be very intentional about who you surround yourself with. Some people just, I think, end up at an office because their mom was licensed there. They end up at a place because they know someone, or when they bought their house, that's who sold it to them, right? Instead of looking back and saying, okay, let me kind of interview. I think agents in general are like, oh my gosh, I got my license, and they hired me. They're willing to hire me, and as opposed to saying, okay, what's the life that I ultimately want? Let me start with the end in mind and say, what kind of business do I want? And that could be, I want to have a big team. It could be, I want to be on a team and just be surrounded by killer producers all day long. It could be, I want to be a great solo agent, but really kind of do a little bit of research. And it wouldn't take you that long, but just spend time with people that are in each one of those roles and say, be honest with me. Tell me, like, what does your life look like? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And then actually intentionally go surround yourselves with those people who can help you get that. Because you'll end up similar to how you put, I think somebody shared this with me. If you put a shark inside of a fish tank, it won't grow any bigger than that fish tank. But you put it out in the ocean, it turns into an 8-foot shark, right?
Yeah.
And so we end up just like, what's that thing that we learn probably in Bold, Andy, about all work expands to fill the time
allotted.
Yeah, I think we as humans grow to fill the space that we allot, right? When we put ourselves in small environments, we end up with small results and small lives. For some, that's perfect, and that's awesome. Again, no judgment. But I would say that if you want maybe more than that, and not just for your sake so you can live a different house or drive a different car, right? Finding far deeper than that, the impact that you want to have on other people, on organizations that maybe matter to you. Be intentional about, who am I surrounding myself with, and are they worth having as a mentor? And then go spend time with them and do what they do. Follow the recipe, right? Not a la carte. Follow what they did to get there.
Yeah. Again, gold. One of the things you said a few minutes ago, you are the sum total of the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
I believe that. I do my best to live that out on a regular basis and always surround myself with people that are doing a lot more than me. I feel like I've had some success in business, and I still have not achieved my true potential, I believe. And surrounding myself with those 5 people gets me a little bit closer all the time. All the time.
That's why you'll continue to have great success, Andy. There's no doubt, because of that humble, hungry mindset. So kudos to you, man.
I love it. Well, Justin, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Haven't talked to you for a while, so it was great to see your face, listen to your voice, and just drop all the value that you did on our listeners. I can guarantee anybody that listens to this is going to get some really good stuff out of it. So thank you so much. I know that you've got a meeting that you've got to run to, so have a great day, and let's connect here real soon. Okay.
Thanks both.
Thanks, Justin.
Both. All right, guys. We'll
take care.
See you, buddy.
I don't know about you, but I'm having a great Monday.
This is always such a great way to start off your Monday, right?
Yeah.
I mean, talking about positive things, about mindset, about growth, about surrounding yourself with awesome people who are doing great things. Like, I'll take this every Monday. I want to talk. Let's just bring Justin back like every Monday.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I love it. If he'll do it, let's do it.
Yeah. He's a great guy, and just love his mindset. Always a pleasure to be around him. Yeah. So we're gonna change things up just a little bit now, And we're going to just do a real quick update on what we're seeing in the real estate market and the mortgage market. So I'm going to start with you, Annie. What are you seeing in the mortgage market? What is happening right now?
Yeah, so the mortgage market continues to be volatile. We're up, we're down, we're all around. Luckily, interest rates have still been in that very low, just below 3% range for well-qualified folks. So just an excellent time to take advantage of locking in those refinance rates. Of course, if you're in the purchase business, Andy's going to talk about that in a minute. But if you are fortunate enough to get into contract, it's time to secure that interest rate as well. There were some really positive numbers in China and their economic growth and kind of opening things back up while they've got these COVID numbers a little bit more stable than definitely here in the US. And so we are seeing a bit of an increase to our stock market today because of those positive numbers. You know, stuff like that happens. We will see a negative report come out again. Last week, we saw unemployment numbers decrease. These are all positive things for the economy, showing some signs of recovery. But of course, as we see new numbers increase and the talk of some markets going back either into shelter in place or, not going through their phases of reopening completely, we'll probably be in this realm for a while. So anything could happen. I always tell people if it makes sense financially, do it. Don't wait for the right opportunity or when such and such rate happens, because not only may that never happen, but you could also be in a worse situation from where you started. So be strategic, make smart decisions. Don't get too greedy out there. These rates are lower than we've ever seen them before. And so could they go a little bit lower? Sure. But there's a lot more room for them to go up than down. So be careful and make those smart decisions. And of course, work with professionals that know what they're doing out there.
Yep. History shows us that the odds of them continuing to go down significantly are very, very slim.
Right.
Right. So
what's going on in the market?
I just have a real quick question. We will get there. I promise. Did you say that rates are under 3%?
Yeah.
So that means that they're in the twos?
They're almost in the mid 2% for a 15-year loan. That's wild.
That's almost like free money.
Oh, yeah.
Almost.
Your financial advisor would tell you it is free money.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with almost.
Yeah. Okay.
Black and white.
That's all right.
So that's awesome. So let's talk about the real estate market then real quick. What I'm seeing is, well, first, pending home sales were up 44% last month. That is the biggest increase in pending home sales since they've reported this in the past. So I think they started about 20 years ago. Pending sales went up 44%, so almost 50% jump in 1 month.
Wow.
And that's not a huge surprise considering what we just went through, where everything shuts down, it opens back up, and people are going to feel a little bit more comfortable. They're realizing that a lot of businesses are doing business very safely, and they can accomplish their goals, whatever that might be.
Right.
But that is a huge jump, and we're just seeing strength in the market. Our real estate market in the Portland, Oregon area is extremely strong. Now, that doesn't mean it's awesome for everybody, because the next thing that we're going to talk about is inventory levels. Inventory levels are still dramatically low. They're still dramatically low, so just not a lot of houses on the market. And Annie talked about interest rates being at or under 3%. So that will entice a lot of home buyers to come into the market because they almost have free money.
Yeah.
And so there are so many buyers in the market and not a lot of options. Supply and demand, it's held pricing very, very strong in the Portland area. And because of the low inventory levels, it's super challenging for buyers. This isn't anything new. We've been talking about this for the past month, 2 months or so, probably more than 2 months. but we're negotiating up to with like 16 other offers right now.
Yeah.
Last week we negotiated against 16 other offers, and I know that there are gonna be some agents that are like, oh my gosh, I just got done submitting an offer with 20 or 25 other offers, and that is really happening in the Portland market, which is rare. Like
I had 23 offers this weekend with a borrower who was competing. So
did they get it?
We did. Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
That is so awesome. That is a great success story. I'd love to hear how that happens, because agents that are setting their clients up for success and positioning them and negotiating the offer, gosh, it is trickier than it's ever been. And like, you need to know what you're doing. So love that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
So 20 or 44% increase, inventory levels super low, interest rates, multiple offers. It's a crazy market right now. Yeah. It's a crazy market, and it's going to stay this way for a while. As Annie mentioned a few minutes ago, you know, we just have to take this time one day at a time. And if you are in a position and you have a need or a strong want to make a move, we are helping home buyers and home sellers every single day. And we're helping them accomplish their goals successfully. And the opportunity cost of not doing something right now, if you feel it's in your best interest, just because you don't know what's going to happen, or, you know, you'll wait a little bit. I've seen buyers lose out on their dream home. It's like they called me a day too late. They're like, Andy, this home, we just saw it. We want to go take a look at it. We go look at it. We write an offer, and we're negotiating the offer, and they're contingent because they have a house to sell, and there are 3 other offers, and one of them is a strong offer with 20% down and no house to sell. They usually win that one.
Yeah.
Not always, but they usually do. So that's the opportunity cost of not doing something right now, is missing out on that perfect opportunity that you will look back a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road and be like, shoot, I wonder, you know, what if? So it's
crazy too. It just seems like since June hit, I kept saying, oh, the summer it's going to pick up, man, it is July. I cannot believe it is the 6th of July already. We're in the throes of summer for sure. So supply and demand, that's what drives the market. So there's still a lot of demand out there and still too little supply. So it's a good, healthy place to be if you're a seller or somebody who's investing in real estate.
I was just about to say, so what's the moral of this story?
Yeah.
If you're considering selling your house, now is a very good time to do it. Yeah. Since I've been selling real estate, there has not been a better time to sell your house than there is right now.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you're just going to slap it on the market and like you're going to get top dollar and everything's going to go perfect. If you do a little bit of work up front, then more than likely you are going to, you know, be high-fiving yourself to both the bank and with your loved one, because you've successfully gone from point A to point B, and point B is your dream, your goal, whatever that looks like. So unbelievable time right now. Okay, Annie, we are going to wrap this sucker up for today. Any parting words?
Man, it was a great show. Thanks for having Justin join us, and good to see your face. I missed you last week.
And I missed you. Thank you. I'm glad that you had a great time on your vacation. I will be here next week, although I'll be gone the rest of this week on the Grand Ronde River, going on a rafting trip with some buddies and all of our little kiddos. So very much looking forward to that. This is kind of my last piece of business right here. And then I'm going to go do last minute shopping and get ready for tomorrow and then head out. So,
such a great time.
Yep. I'm super, super excited. And I will be back here next Monday. So thank you guys all for joining us today. If we can be a resource to you, a conversation, a sounding board, we would love to provide you with that assistance. We will leave all of our contact information down below in either the post or the show notes, or wherever you're seeing this, you will be able to reach us or just shoot us a DM. We're happy to help. So thank you. I hope that everybody has a great week this week, and we'll see you next Monday, same place, same time.
See you later, guys.
Cheers.